Today, we're diving into a really, really disturbing case from Delhi, India. It's one of those cases that reminds you how easily a perfect life, at least on the surface, can be completely shattered by dark secrets.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the story of Varun Arora. He was, by all accounts, a successful businessman, adored by his in-laws, seems like the ideal son-in-law. But behind this facade was a sinister plan, something that would devastate his entire family and leave them searching for answers.
Right.
So our deep dive starts in February 2021 in the Inderpuri neighborhood of Delhi. This is where Devinder Sharma lived with his family. They had a comfortable life, a close-knit family, but their world, as you can imagine, was about to be turned upside down.
Yeah.
Devendra's youngest daughter, Priyanka, had just returned home from London. She'd been studying business there and seemed perfectly healthy, but suddenly she fell terribly ill.
Wow.
The symptoms, though, were really baffling. She had stomach cramps, vomiting, and then gradually this increasing numbness in her limbs. The pain became just unbearable.
Oh, that's awful.
Devendra obviously panicked and rushed Priyanka to Apollo Hospital in Delhi, which has a good reputation. But despite, their best efforts, her condition just kept getting worse.
And that's what's so striking about this case, right?
Yeah.
Even for experienced doctors, this was a medical mystery in the making.
It really was. After 24 hours at Apollo, with no improvement, they transferred Priyanka to BLK Super Specialty Hospital, one of the most prestigious hospitals in Delhi. And there, a whole team of specialists ran every test imaginable, trying to figure out what was causing her to deteriorate so rapidly. They checked her liver, kidneys, heart, everything seemed normal.
Wow.
And all this time, Priyanka was suffering. It's just heartbreaking. She went from this vibrant young woman to, she was wasting away before their eyes. Her hair started falling out. Her hands and feet were stiffening.
It's just unimaginable.
It really is.
Yeah.
And tragically, after 12 days of this agonizing pain, Priyanka passed away on February 15th, 2021. Can you imagine the family? They were devastated, totally bewildered. They had no idea who could have done this or why anyone would want to hurt Priyanka. And what's even more tragic is that they had no idea that this was just the beginning of their nightmare.
Oh, no.
Just a week after Priyanka died, Devendra's wife, Anita, started having the same symptoms, excruciating pain in her legs. And then Devendra himself got sick. Stomach pains, hair loss. Even their housemaid who ate with the family started showing the same terrifying symptoms.
So it was like this invisible force was targeting their entire household.
Exactly. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
So amidst all this chaos and fear, Devendra, Anita, and the maid were all hospitalized. The family was desperate, just clinging to hope. Anita's condition was the worst. She ended up in critical care at Sir Gangaram Hospital, another top hospital in Delhi.
It's just unbelievable, one thing after another.
I know, and you might be wondering, where was the elder daughter Divya in all of this? Well, just a day before Priyanka got sick, Divya had gone back to her own home in Greater Kailash. She'd been staying with her parents with her twin children.
So it was just chance that she wasn't there.
It really was. And, as we go deeper into this story, you'll see that this seemingly insignificant detail, Divya being away, becomes a crucial clue in the investigation. But for now, Divya had no idea what was happening back at her parents' home. She didn't find out until a month later, on March 4th, 2021, when she got this frantic phone call from her husband, Varun.
Oh, no.
He was saying that her mother was gravely ill. So Divya rushed to Sir Gangaram Hospital. But just like Priyanka and Anita, the doctors were baffled by Divya's condition. All her test results were normal, but she had all the same symptoms. The doctors were just grasping at straws. Their diagnoses were basically just guesses. They had no idea what was wrong with her. It was. And to make matters worse, Divya's condition deteriorated rapidly. Within just 2 days of being admitted to the hospital, she slipped into a coma. It was a nightmare for Devendra. His entire family was being ravaged by this mysterious illness. Thankfully, Devendra and the maid eventually recovered, but Anita remained in critical condition. And the head of medical administration at Sir Gangaram Hospital, a brigadier-esque talk, he was just beside himself. He couldn't understand how an entire family could be struck down like this. It just didn't make sense.
Right.
So Brigadier Katok, he was determined to get to the bottom of this. He ordered heavy metal poisoning tests for everyone.
Interesting.
And on March 14th, 2021, the results came back. Both Divya and Anita had extremely high levels of thallium in their systems.
Thallium.
Thallium. And I'm not talking about trace amounts here. We're talking thousands of times higher than normal. A near-lethal dose. This wasn't some environmental exposure. Someone was deliberately poisoning this family. Now, I don't know about you, but thallium isn't something you hear about every day. It's certainly not something you'd expect to find in, a family's food, let alone in such high doses.
Yeah, it's definitely not your average poisoning case. Thallium, though rare, has this chilling history.
Really?
Slow-acting, tasteless, odorless, which makes it incredibly difficult to detect.
So it's like something out of a spy movie or something.
Exactly. It disrupts the nervous system, causing incredible pain, hair loss, paralysis, and if it's not treated, eventually organ failure.
And because it's so subtle, it takes time to even realize it's thallium poisoning, right? Which makes it even more dangerous.
Absolutely. The symptoms can be misleading, so by the time it's correctly diagnosed, it's often too late.
Just awful. So in this case, finding thallium in both Divya and Anita, and at such high levels, it had to be intentional, right?
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't some accidental exposure. Someone was systematically trying to poison this family.
And the big question, of course, was who? Who would do this? And why target this family? Well, the answer, as investigators would soon uncover, lay within the tangled threads of family, grief, and a belief system with truly tragic consequences.
Wow.
Remember how Divya got that frantic call from her husband Varun about her mother being sick? That call, as insignificant as it might have seemed at the time, became a pivotal clue in the investigation.
Oh, how so?
Well, Devendra started piecing together the timeline, and he remembered that Varun, who rarely visited their home in Indrapuri, had actually shown up unexpectedly just a day before Priyanka got sick.
Interesting.
And often it's these seemingly small details, these deviations from routine that can really crack a case wide open,
Yeah, absolutely. Those little things that seem out of place.
Right, exactly. And in this case, the detail that stuck out was a dish Varun brought with him, basa fillet fish curry. He insisted on serving everyone himself, even said he made it himself. But here's the thing. He served everyone except Priyanka, who wasn't home at the time. And then later that evening, when Priyanka came home, Varun, he made a big show of serving her, like 2 large portions of the fish curry.
That's strange.
It is, right? And get this, Divya's twins, they were already fed, so they didn't have any. And when Varun was offered some of the curry, he refused. He said his jaw hurt from, get this, laughing too much at a show earlier.
Okay, so he made sure certain people ate the curry and made sure others didn't.
Exactly. And that, for the investigators, pointed to premeditation. This wasn't some random spur-of-the-moment thing. This was a plan.
A calculated plan.
And with this horrifying realization and the evidence from the hospital, Devinder went to the police. On March 24th, 2021, Varun Ara, the seemingly devoted son-in-law, was arrested. He was arrested for the attempted murder of his own family.
Wow, I mean, can you imagine the shock?
It was huge. Everyone who knew Varun was completely stunned. I mean, he was successful, he came from a good family, had a wife, kids. The whole picture of a perfect life.
Right, and that's what's so unsettling about cases like this.
It really is. So as the police dug deeper into Varun's life, they uncovered these tangled motives, fueled by grief, a very unusual interpretation of faith, and a desire for control that ultimately had devastating consequences. As the police investigated Varun, they uncovered a pivotal event that really set this whole thing in motion: the death of Varun's father, Chunder Lal, back in 2020.
Okay, so a death in the family, obviously tragic, but not unheard of, right?
Right, and it's not the death itself that's so significant here. It's how Varun and his mother, Jia Arora, dealt with their grief. They were utterly consumed by this belief in reincarnation. And it was this belief, combined with what happened next, that really pushed Varun over the edge. 3 months after his father died, Divya found out she was pregnant again. This time it was a natural pregnancy, but it was complicated. Her doctor was worried and recommended an abortion. Divya, who already had the twins, agreed with the doctor. It seemed like the right, even if difficult, decision.
Right, but I'm guessing that for Varun and his mother, this wasn't just a medical decision.
Exactly. They saw it as a sign, a chance to be reunited with Chunder Lal. And to make matters worse, Divya's due date. It would have been Chunder Lal's birthday.
Oh, wow, so the timing of it all just fueled their belief.
It did, totally. Varun and his mother became convinced that this pregnancy wasn't a coincidence. They truly believed that Divya was carrying the reincarnation of Chunder Lal.
And when Divya went ahead with the abortion with the support of her family, well, that must have been devastating for them.
It was. They felt completely betrayed, like they'd been robbed of a miracle. And Varun, consumed by grief and this warped sense of justice, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He actually admitted to the police that he got the idea for the poisonings from, get this, Saddam Hussein. He'd read that Hussein used thallium to eliminate his enemies.
Wow.
He researched poisons meticulously, even considered mercury and lead, but he ultimately chose thallium because it was so hard to detect, so slow acting.
Right, we talked about that.
And his planning, it was chilling. He forged documents to buy the thallium. He used his father-in-law's homeopathy business as a cover.
Which, just to clarify, homeopathy usually uses very diluted substances, not toxic heavy metals like thallium, right?
Exactly. Varun was just exploiting the system, using what he knew to get the poison without anyone suspecting a thing. And even after that first poisoning, when they started to suspect him, Varun, he didn't stop. He actually ordered more thallium in March.
He was determined to see this through.
He was. This wasn't just some crime of passion. It was calculated, cold-blooded, all driven by this warped sense of justice and his belief that he was somehow in the right.
It's just unfathomable.
And it gets worse. After he was arrested, Varun actually tried to poison himself with a small amount of thallium. He claimed that he'd eaten some of the fish curry, too, tried to make it look like he was innocent.
Wow, so manipulative.
It was a desperate attempt, and thankfully it failed. The evidence against him was overwhelming. But the legal battle, it dragged on for years, bogged down by the complexities of the Indian legal system. And get this, even though Varun's mother helped him buy the thallium, she was never charged.
Really?
The court said there wasn't enough evidence.
Unbelievable.
And if that wasn't bad enough, remember how Priyanka was initially treated for rabies? Well, it turned out that the hospital had missed the thallium poisoning completely. They attributed her death to rabies, even though there was zero history of animal bites. It was a devastating oversight that led to a whole separate investigation into medical negligence. Just one thing after another for this family. And here's where things stand today. The case is still ongoing. The next hearing is scheduled for January 9th, 2025. Varun is still in prison, but for Devinder and his family, this nightmare continues. He lost his wife, his 2 daughters, and the trust he once had in his own family. The emotional toll, it's just unimaginable.
It really is. The Varun Arora case is a chilling reminder that even in the closest of families, darkness can lurk beneath the surface.
It's a stark reminder of how dangerous blind faith can be, how grief can twist even the best intentions, and how easy it is in this day and age for dangerous substances to fall into the wrong hands.
We often think these kinds of horrific events only happen to other people, but the truth is none of us are immune to the potential for darkness, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
That's what's so unsettling about this case, and I think it serves as a stark reminder to us all to be vigilant, to think critically, and to never take our safety or the safety of our loved ones for granted. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and until next time, stay safe.